Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Toast. And all generation long, we have heard a lot about the Xbox Series S and what it can and cannot do. Some have even accused it of holding this generation back. Some says it's just not powerful enough and that it shouldn't exist at all. It's a potato, as some might say, but in an ironic turn of events, a new report has come out that reveals how the Xbox Series has actually improved a high-profile game for all platforms. Yes, actually, PlayStation and PC benefits from the Xbox Series S, and this isn't often thought about or even really considered at all, but let's just go ahead and change that today. Then also, the Golden Joystick Award winners were announced today, and this is one of those prestigious awards given out every year, so I thought we'd at least take a look at that as well, including some of its issues that I think definitely needs to be highlighted. Before we get started, though, do make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way, every time I post a new video, it'll be delivered directly to your device. Again, make sure to ring that bell because YouTube is kind of weird about this stuff, but it does make it easier to stay up to date. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into the video, starting off with Silent Hill. I think for the most part, Silent Hill fans are pretty happy at the moment after years of doom and gloom and the concern that Konami might have left AAA gaming. Well, they've slowly returned with multiple Silent Hill projects and even Metal Gear Solid. Silent Hill's future is looking really better than it has in years and years, and Konami they're back in a big way right now. Now, we still need to see how these games actually turn out and everything. I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully, it'll be a grand return for high-quality Konami content. We'll see. But the good news here is that it currently looks like Konami is planning to stay the course. They've once again rediscovered that console games are worthwhile for their company after all. Who would have guessed, right? But what's happening here is that they're starting to invest in their own in-house teams. They just announced a new in-house studio dubbed Silent Productions Team, which, as you guessed, their goal is to parent the Silent Hill franchise. Now, that's kind of the thing here, though, because it doesn't sound like this is a full-blown studio in the sense that they'll be developing brand new projects by themselves. Maybe they will eventually, but rather this almost comes off like a publishing team that you would see inside Xbox or PlayStation, where they basically go out and find third-party studios to work on Silent Hill projects, and then this team helps support said game. Still, though, I mean, this is a great sign for the future of Silent Hill, and that is worth noting. The very fact that they're putting together a team at all tells me that they're in this for the long haul, and as long as they see some success, again, hopefully, I'd imagine the Silent Hill franchise won't see that same drought that it previously got. Like I said before, Konami is slowly coming back, and I'd actually like to see them do something similar with some of their other big franchises like Metal Gear and Castlevania. Now, moving on, though, the PlayStation Portal will be out next week on November 15th, and it looks like a lot of outlets will have their reviews ready to go ahead of time. Unboxing videos are already surfacing online, and if you want to see how people react to how it feels, you can already check that out on YouTube as we speak. Right now, I'm hearing some very positive things about how it feels. Apparently, it's extremely comfortable and a lot lighter than what you might expect for as bulky as this thing is. See, the thing here is that as strange as this device is designed, and it's easy to poke fun at. I get that. It's basically a tablet slapped between a DualSense controller cut in half, and it does look weird and everything, but if you think about it, ergonomically, this also might be one of the most comfortable handhelds on the market. That's kind of strange to think about, but it'll legitimately feel like a controller in your hand because well, that's essentially what it is. It might look weird, but it's probably going to be very comfortable in your hands. Now, as for its size, you can see here posted by Gene Park, he has it next to the Steam Deck OLED and the Nintendo Switch OLED. So its overall size is quite similar to the Steam Deck, and that's actually a pretty good size, especially considering that the PlayStation Portal has a bigger screen at 8 inches compared to the 7.4 that is on the Steam Deck OLED. Overall, though, I mean, I'm very curious about this device. I actually used to use PlayStation Remote Play quite a bit back in the day on the NVIDIA Shield Portable, if any of you know what that is, and overall I had a pretty decent experience, but I really want to see if the Portal can offer a better overall experience than that. If anything else, I do like the fact that the PlayStation Portal is a dedicated device. For me, I really don't like Remote Play on phones because I think that it's annoying and cumbersome. I mean, if I want to play Remote Play on my phone, that means I have to take off my case, connect a controller, and then there's constant notifications that I get on my phone, and it's just annoying to deal with, whereas the PlayStation Portal, it's a simple turn on and play device. So I'm actually pretty excited to try this thing out next week when it releases. All right, so let's go talk about the Xbox Series S, because in a very ironic turn of events, it's been revealed that the Xbox Series S may have actually benefited other platforms, including the Xbox Series X, the PlayStation 5, and yes, the PC as well. And you might be wondering, how is that possible? This is the same machine that's supposedly holding back next generation gaming because it's an apparent potato. That's what people like to say. Well, the thing is, most people might not think about this, but because of its limitations, it actually requires developers to better optimize their games, which ironically directly benefits all platforms. Let's use Baldur's Gate 3 as an example. As great as this game is, its performance at times isn't necessarily perfect, especially later in the game. This is a very well-known problem for Baldur's Gate 3. It's not a perfectly optimized game, but thanks to the work that they're now putting in for the Xbox Series S, they've actually discovered new ways to optimize its performance. One of Larian's developers revealed that their work on the Xbox Series S has resulted in a 10% reduction to RAM and a massive 34% reduction in VRAM. That is pretty significant, and you can see here posted up by PC Gamer, they said, clearly, we have no idea what Larian has specifically done to achieve this, but it's unlikely to just be a case of rendering at lower resolutions or using smaller textures. The evidence for this is that the memory testing shows only small improvements throughout September and October. If merely lowering the settings was the only thing required, then the developers would have done this much sooner. So this is potentially a breakthrough moment for Baldur's Gate 3 and its optimization. What many consider the absolute game of the year, well, it might have gotten even better across all platforms thanks to, ironically, the Xbox Series S and its limitations. Those limitations did nothing more than ask the developer to make a tighter overall experience, to better optimize it, because with better optimization, little should hold it back from releasing on the Xbox Series S. Now, I can see how that might be annoying for certain developers because it requires them to do extra work, and while that might not necessarily be an issue for larger studios, it can be problematic for a smaller studio like Larian. That is one of the things about this topic, though. For as much discussion as there's been about the Xbox Series S holding back this generation, Larian actually responded to this very specific topic earlier in the year. Back in July, they said this: "We're going to get there. It's just going to take some time. Do I think it holds game development back? No, it just defines certain parameters within which you have to develop, and there are ways of doing that. It just takes development effort, and that effort, despite us having grown, we don't have infinite resources. That means we can't do everything at the same time." So they actually told us this well ahead of time. There was never a plan to skip Xbox. They just had to put in some extra work, and that's exactly what they've done. Now, with all that said, though, just to be fair here, I do think that this game may have brought to surface one issue, and that's local co-op on the Xbox Series S. That has been a repeated issue that we've seen on Xbox this generation, and the Xbox Series S might be the main culprit. But because of Baldur's Gate 3, Xbox actually dropped the parity clause that requires local co-op for both the Xbox Series S and Series X. Otherwise, the development time for Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox might have been much longer, but I actually view that outcome as a good thing. I do like the fact that Xbox adapted to the situation, they fixed it, and that could result to more games getting local co-op on the Xbox Series X at the very least. Either which way, I mean, ironically, PC and PlayStation might actually need to thank the Xbox Series S for better optimization in certain games like Baldur's Gate 3. Like the great Michael Scott once said, "How the turn tables." Okay, so we do have one other thing to talk about, and as much as I'd like this to be a straightforward topic, I really would, but it's not. So the Golden Joystick Awards, and I keep wanting to say the Golden State Warriors, so if I do, I apologize, but the Golden Joystick Award winners were revealed today, and this is supposed to be a prestigious award contest to celebrate gaming, but in today's world, that's unfortunately not what a lot of these award contests ends up being to a lot of fans out there. Instead, they're often used as console war ammo. It's honestly exhausting. Keep that in mind because we're going to come back to that here in just a second. But first, let's go and take a look at some of the winners. So the big winner here was Baldur's Gate 3. We were just talking about that game, and not only did it win the PC Game of the Year, but it also won the Ultimate Game of the Year award, voted by you, the fans. That is why the Golden Joystick Awards are held in such regards, because it is fan-driven. Millions of fans vote for the winners every single year, and you all chose none other than Baldur's Gate 3. So big congrats to Larian Studios. This is well deserved, as Baldur's Gate 3 will live on as one of the greatest RPGs ever made. Now, critics chose Alan Wake 2 as their Game of the Year, which is also a fantastic game. No complaints here. Alan Wake 2 was well worth the wait, thankfully. Then Xbox's Game of the Year was none other than Starfield. So despite a lot of illogical discourse online, it's already won one major award here. And again, I think that it is well deserved. It is a highly ambitious game, and while it's not necessarily perfect, no game is, but it is another great Bethesda RPG that will be played for years and years and years, as they typically are. Then the Nintendo Game of the Year was, as you guessed it, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I think that we all kind of knew that this would be their Game of the Year before it even released. You just kind of know when you play Zelda, it's going to be a high-quality experience, and while I do prefer the classic Zeldas, there's no doubt in my mind that their open world formula is still a great overall experience, and it's easily one of the best games that released in 2023, which is saying a lot because, as a lot of you are probably aware, 2023 has been absolutely stacked. And then for the controversial winner, the PlayStation Game of the Year award went to Resident Evil 4. Okay, so this kind of needs an explanation here because despite Resident Evil 4 being a great game, there is a lot of confusion on why Spider-Man 2 didn't win. Well, the thing is that Spider-Man 2 wasn't even nominated for PlayStation Game of the Year at all. You can actually see here the nominations were Final Fantasy 16, Resident Evil 4, which of course won, Street Fighter 6, Humanity, Armored Core 6, and then Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So again, an explanation is needed. It would be very surprising to not see Spider-Man 2 at least nominated, and there is a reason for that because Spider-Man 2 did not release in time for the cutoff date. It's also the exact same reason that Mario Wonder wasn't nominated for Nintendo's Best Game, and it's also the same reason that Alan Wake 2 didn't qualify for Best Story. It's honestly a big mess the more you think about it, but you can see the key dates here and kind of piece together which game qualified for which category based on their release dates. But you can see the key dates here. The nominations opened on August 8th, then they closed on August 31st. The shortlist announced and voting opened on September 29th. Voting closed on October 20th, which that is one day before Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder released. Then you have the Ultimate Game of the Year voting, and that opened up on October 23rd, and then it closed on the 30th, and then of course the award ceremony was today. So they did have different dates for different categories. Again, this entire contest is just one big mess. I mean, big congrats to the winners because they're all still great games. I'm not trying to knock them down at all, but this is the same thing that I've said about the Game Awards in the past. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to do these big Game Award events and put a lot of stock into them if you're only going to include 10 or maybe 11 months of the year. I mean, a lot of big games every single year releases in October, November, and December, but for whatever reason, a lot of these games don't actually qualify because they released too late. It's just a bizarre situation that could easily be avoided by putting these award ceremonies at a later date. Now, I can at least understand holding an award competition in December, preferably late December, but again, you can't not include certain games just because they didn't meet a cutoff date. Really, instead of calling them Game of the Year, we might as well just go and call them Game of the 10 Months because that's basically what they are. Despite all of that, though, I do still want to congratulate the winners here. Again, they are still great games. I'm not trying to knock them at all, but I genuinely do believe that these competitions needs to be organized better. And I'm also looking at you, Jeff Keighley. He's been guilty of this as well. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day. That we're asked you, well, will you be getting the Steam Deck OLED? And the majority of you indeed said that you're not interested, which I don't think is really a major surprise. The Steam Deck is a successful device that sold millions of units already, but it is still niche at the end of the day. However, the more interesting part of the results, I'd say, is the first two options. 13% of the majority there are interested, and then only 2% of you who currently own the Steam Deck wants to upgrade. Now, I think one reason for that is just the pace that they're releasing these PC handhelds. The Steam Deck isn't even 2 years old, so buying into another that soon might just be too much for most consumers. I genuinely believe that Valve should offer a trade-in program to make an upgrade as easy as possible. We'll see. I'm not expecting it, but yeah, we'll see. But still, the OLED model is doing its job, I'd say, or at least based on these results. The fact that it's garnering some interest from fans who currently don't own a Steam Deck means that there's going to be another wave of purchases this holiday. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you like the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.